Ready? That was me. I'm a ventriloquist. Yep. Whoa. Hi, everyone. Did you hear? Hi. Did you hear my fairy imitation? It's really cool. Could you tell that it wasn't me? All right, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. Please make him stop. We need like the hook from the Gong Show or something. Welcome to day 3. Good. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs up. Good. Big round of applause for yourselves. You are brave, brave people coming to a place that some of you don't even know, to take risks with people you don't know, to make art. And that's really brave. And I'm really inspired by all of you. And I'm glad that each and every one of you is here. And it's Wednesday already, crazy. This is our third and final faculty event of the week. We have a great lineup tonight, as we do always. We have poet Gabrielle Calvocoressi, a big hand. They're going to read from their work, and then they'll be signing books at the back afterwards, so you don't want to miss that. And then also we have artist Megan Hinton, who we're really happy to have here. After both of them do their things, we'll have them back as we have the last couple of nights for a Q&A with the audience, so stick around for that, and it's really great. Okay, a couple of housekeeping things, but I won't say the same housekeeping things. I'm going to say new. We moved the bathrooms. They're now over there. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody believed me, right? Okay, all right, so, okay, really, I'm going to stop any second. Somebody stop him. All right, so tomorrow, remember, Mark Adams is doing his walk around P-Town with anybody who wants to go. He is a fountain of information, knowledge. Which is it? Could it be any of those? Fount? Could be any of them? Let's go with font of knowledge about the natural and cultural artistic history of P-Town and the Outer Cape, and he's going to lead you to some very special places. Whoever wants to go, we're going to meet right here at 1:30. It'll be about an hour to 90 minutes of your afternoon, and it'll be a lot of fun. So I encourage you to join Mark. He'll also be teaching with us at the end of the summer. He'll be doing a painting and writing watercolor beautiful thing, really going out into nature to make some art. Anyway, tomorrow 1:30, do that. Want to also remind you, a couple of people have contacted me about this. Pete Hawking, our beloved painting teacher, is teaching an extension of his workshop online starting in August. Jennifer Jean, our FOC Online program manager, is going to be reaching out to all of Pete's students with an email tomorrow or Friday. That's going to have all the information you need if you want to sign up for this 8-week workshop. It's going to be really great. It's the first time we've tried this, and we're really excited about it. Also related to this, oh, what the fuck was that? I mean, like an alien, something's going to come out of my chest. It's a little scary. Sorry. I'm going to take a breath. For our poets, MP Carver, who's a local Boston-based poet, is going to be leading an online workshop that's an extension of the summer workshops for any poets who are taking a workshop this summer. She'll be running a 4-week workshop starting in August. Also, any writing students, poetry students, will also get emails with all the necessary information from Jennifer in the next couple of days. It's going to be a really great opportunity to leverage the excitement and the sort of inspiration that you've had and the momentum that you have had in your workshops here, and extend it further into keep it going with an online connection with your fellow students and with teachers. So keep an eye out for that. Tomorrow night, what's tomorrow night? That's right. And do you know what's across there in that room? The sign-up sheet. It's nothing to be scared of. Embrace. if you, what was that? I don't understand any of the words you just said. The sign-up sheet is across the deck in the lounge, on the coffee table, between the two sofas. It's got a bunch of people signed up, which I'm really excited about. If you have not yet, I heartily and wholeheartedly encourage you to do so. You will not regret it. Are you guys signed up? Good. Are you signed up? You signed up? Okay, I'm going to stop now. Oh, one more thing. There's another thing. I want to remind people about our new honor tax where we're supporting the Native Land Conservancy. We have a QR code and a URL, thank you, that Hannah is holding up, that will allow you to make a donation to the Native Land Conservancy, which allows us to take a step beyond the land acknowledgement in our relationship with our Wampanoag neighbors. So I encourage you to do that anytime while you're still here. Okay. That's it. Gallery, go look at it. Bookstore, go look at it. T-shirts, stickers, cups. There's so much great stuff back there. Check it out. Also, Gabby will be signing books afterwards. There's books back there. There's books in the library. Check them all out. They're really great. And I'm going to stop. So I'm going to, oh wait, I can't stop yet. I'd like to give a shout out to the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod and the Cape Cod 5 Foundation, who generously support our summer public programming. And if you need assisted listening devices to help you better enjoy the event tonight, please ask Hannah, she'll get you connected with those. And finally, please don't be that person. Turn off your cell phones. Turn them to silent or turn them off. And now I'd like to invite one of Gabby's students, Blue, to come up to the stage to introduce Gabby. Blue, come on up.
Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce my wonderful instructor, Gabrielle Calvocoressi, they, them. Gabrielle Calvocoressi is the author of The Last Time I Saw Amelia, Earhart, winner of the Connecticut Book Award, Apocalyptic Swing, finalist for the 2009 Los Angeles Times Book Prize, and Rocket Fantastic, winner of the Audre Lorde Award for Lesbian Poetry. Their new collection of poetry, The New Economy, will be released from Copper Canyon in October 2025, in which Calvocoressi reaches outside of poetry altogether, according to Publishers Weekly. A graduate of Sarah Lawrence College and Columbia University, Calvocoressi is the recipient of numerous awards and fellowships, including a Stegner Fellowship, Jones Lectureship from Stanford University, among others. Calvocoressi was the Beatrice Shepard Blaine Fellow at the Harvard Radcliffe Institute for 2022-2023, and currently teaches at UNC Chapel Hill. Please, a round of applause for Gabrielle.
What a totally wonderful, all of you. Blue, thank you. Thank you so much. My gosh, my students who are always my teachers. I'm gonna do a couple things. I'm gonna set the timer, 4 hours and 17 minutes. Yeah, I'm so thrilled to be here. My phone is on, so my dad might be texting me, and that's like, I've got like that emergency thing on. There's not an emergency, it'll be about like TV or something like that. But if you hear it binging, that's just my dad. I always say this, but like there I was in 1997 on that second floor in the FAR classroom. You know, I was just a student here, and yeah. I was like in Marie Howe's class. And I just think how like lucky I am to have found this place, and for this place to have kept welcoming me, and for me to have a place like this where I have continued to be able to imagine myself Imagine my life, imagine my body, imagine my desire. Did I call myself trans in 1997? No. Was I imagining myself in what I viewed as a male body? Yes, since I was 2 months old. This is a place that has been a gateway for me as a writer, as a maker, and as a body, and as a vessel. And I think it's that way for so many of us. And no wonder places like this terrify this administration. When things happen like happened today, where the Supreme Court has made medical care, gender-affirming care, unavailable to trans youth, and then the Trump administration closes down the LGBTQ suicide prevention hotline for youth, we might think we can't bring it into this place. We're having so much fun. Us having fun in the face of that is terrifying to them. Us having places like this to imagine our bodies, to have really generative forms of imagination. Think of all the time these people spend imagining what I do in the bathroom. They should come take a workshop. Let's get real deep into the toilet, But I say that by way of saying, every time I'm here, I feel so grateful for all of you. I feel so grateful for Provincetown. I feel so grateful for the Work Center. And I just want to say to David, to Hannah, to Miracle, to Dustin, just to every single member of this community who has helped me this week, who's helped me over and over and again. And for all the ghosts, Lucy Brock-Broido, my dear teacher, my dear ghost who's here, I just do want to take time and say, we're doing something also important here, and the Work Center is doing something so important, and I think so many of us here are so grateful to you, our bodies owe something to you. Yeah. Let's read about Mary Oliver and strap-ons, just to really get it going. It's beautiful to be here. Oh my God, also, there's going to be a great documentary about Mary Oliver that's coming out. And I know they've been here talking to folks, so that's great. Praise House, the new economy, after and for Ross Gay. The rosemary bush blooming its unabashed blue. Also, dumplings filled with steam and soup, so my mouth fills and I bubble over with laughter. Little things, people kissing on bicycles, being able to walk up the stairs and run back down. Joanna's garden after the long flight to Tel Aviv, not being detained like everyone thought I would. The man with dreadlocks and a perfect green shirt walking home from work, one cold beer before I drink it and get sick. How peaches mold into compost in a single day, orange to gray, to darkness and to dirt. Her ankles taste, the skin right under the knob, delicate as a tomatillo's shroud. All the animals that talk to me, that I finally let them talk to me, the blessing of waking early enough to watch the fox bathe itself, the suction of a man's hands meeting another's on the street, every single person looking up to see them. Bros, yes, but lovely in the golden light with brims swung to the back. I want shoulders like they have. Want my waist to taper to an ass built like the Davids, I admit it. This body's not enough for me. Still, I love it. I'll be sure blasting out a Nissan Sentra's windows, bow ties, ridiculous blues, my mother's seizures, specifically that I don't have them, that I can answer Ross's call or not, because we live harmonious and are always talking somehow. Tapestries with their gluttony of deer, fig perfume, and also cypress, boxer briefs and packing socks and jockey shorts, strap-ons, soft and hard, welcome in her hand and in mine as I greet the real me, the little shop in Provincetown, and the speckled dog that licks itself in that fresco of the crucifixion. Mary Oliver, I love her. I really do. The baseball she gave me that says, "Go Sox," though I love the Orioles. Old Bay on all my shrimp and justice, and cities burning if people need to burn them to get free. My grandmother gardening in the late light, Sun Ra, the first time, Paris, even though I've never been there, Niddle plums, tattoos everlasting, clouds, Orion's belt, pushing inside her with both hands holding myself up my weight, her grabbing and saying, "God, fuck the neighbors." Casablanca, not knowing anything, angels, mashed potatoes, good red wine. I mean, come on, come take a workshop. Oh, thanks. Think of all the things we could teach people. Angeline can't be here, my dear Angeline. We've been coming here since we were just little queer kittens, but she's homesick right now. She ties my bow tie. She would say she fixes my bow tie, but that is not a good title for a poem. She ties my bow tie. What you thought was the sound of the deer drinking at the base of the ravine was not their soft tongues entering the water, but my love tying my bow tie. We were in our little house just up from the ravine. Forgive yourself. It's easy to mistake her wrists for the necks of deer. Her fingers move so deftly, one could call them skittish, though not really, because they aren't afraid of you. I know. You thought it was the deer, but they're so far down, you couldn't possibly hear them. No, this is the breeze my love makes when she ties me up and sends me out into the world. Her breath pulled taut and held until she's through. I watch her in the mirror, not even looking at me. She's so focused on the knot and how to loop the silk into a bow. Oh, bow ties. But you know, I was talking, my beautiful class. Can I just thank my class? Oh my gosh, woohoo! There's nothing like cheering for your class. This is the first time I've ever read from my galley, so I'm finding my way around it a little bit. It's a new book, it's coming out. Today we did an exercise where I said, like, could you go to a place and, like, really look at that place, really imagine it, really write into it, draw into it, but then could you imagine everything that's, like, growing beneath it? All the fungus, all the bones, all the everything. Because I can present like this. This is, you know, this is my manifested self. But I've got a lot of fungus. Mayflower cistern, I feel my pilgrim worry. All day long I feel my pilgrim worry, crude and unforgiving as the buckle on my boots. I mark the boundaries of the town, and then I build a fence. I build a pillory and a scaffold. I bring my gun into the forests and my axe inside me. I hurl my brittle body at the pines. I have a plan for them, a way to make them useful, which is God's compact with the world. Whatever does not welcome me, I tear asunder. Whatever welcomes me was mine to sack and bring to my knees. I give the gift of my hunger to everyone, And then I build a fence. The doe is certainly a sorceress. The sparrow was the woman smiling into the mirror of the well. What will I make of this country inside me? My pilgrim huddles in the corner of my heart, which I hate for its hopeful sounding, its unwillingness to know the truth of how broken and beyond salvation it is. So many of us were told to be proud of things when we were young. And maybe we have no right to be proud of. I miss my ghosts when I'm here. Do you all miss your ghosts a little bit? But like then, who was talking about good ghosts today? Was it Judy? Did Judy talk about ghosts in class today? Somebody had a ghost. Let's let him in. Miss you. Would like to take a walk with you. Do not care if you arrive in your skeleton. Would love to take a walk with you. Miss you. Would love to make you shrimp saganaki like you used to make me when you were alive. Love to feed you. Sit over steaming bowls of pilaf, little roasted tomatoes covered in pepper and nutmeg. Miss you. Would love to walk to the post office with you. Bring the ghost dog. We'll walk past the waterfall, and you can tell me about the after. Wish you would come back for a while. Don't even need to bring your skin sack. I'll know you. I know you'll know me, even though I'm bigger now, grayer. I'll show you my garden. I'd like to hop in the leaf pile you raked, but if you want to jump in, I'll rake it for you. Miss you. Standing, looking out at the river with your rake in your hand. Miss you in your puffy blue jacket. They're hip now. I can bring you a new one if you'll only come by. No, I told you it was okay to go. No, I told you it was okay to leave me. Why'd you believe me? You always believed me. Wish you would come back so we could talk about truth. Miss you. Wish you would walk through my door, stare out from the mirror, come through the pipes. I mean, oh, thanks. You know, just like our ghosts, like, do I want my grandmother to come back? I don't know, she might like where she is. But like, could I just like sit with her for a second? Do y'all have that? Like, there's just that person. I spent a lot of time with my mother looking at Christ on the cross. Like, so much time. Recently, it took me a long time to think to myself, I spent so much time watching a young man be tortured. Just hawk song cistern. I think about him on the cross. I did when I was little too, but then not until this moment when hawk song outside my winter window, heard it in passing, loud, right in the middle of the pain, then fading off past the steeple of the first church. I'm not sure why it made me think of him, who I believe was him, though no more of God than all of us. Too much pain probably to have heard a hawk song. Too much fear and calling out. Somehow, when the bird flew past, I wondered, was it sunny like today is? So bright and me with a little cold, which has my mind wandering. It smells like winter, but outside, spring's blanket drapes all over me. How far could I reach my arms out? How much could I bear? And would I hear the hawk that flew past me? That poor young man. Oh, I cannot wait for Megan. We've decided, should we tell them our band name now or later? It's called No Sharks in the Kettle Pond. which is also the name of my collected poems, I've decided. Yeah, drum and accordion, and we're just gonna shred. It's been such a pleasure to be here with you tonight. I'm gonna read one more poem and then, gosh, Megan. Hammond B3 organ cistern. I'm so grateful that we're all here together. Can we just like feel it for a second? Like maybe we could do this. This is like not the craziest thing I have asked my class to do all week, but just like really like all of our little mycelial roots going out, spreading out, spreading out. We'll be there for each other. We're reaching toward all the people, all those kids out there, all those, our imagination. Hammond B3 organ cistern. The days I don't want to kill myself are extraordinary. Deep bass. All the people in the streets waiting for their high fives and leaping, I mean leaping when they see me. I am the sun-filled god of love, or at least an optimistic undersecretary. There should be a word for it. The days you wake up and do not want to slit your throat. Money in the bank. Enough for an iced green tea every weekday and Saturday and Sunday. It's like being in the armpit of a Hammond B3 organ. Just reeks of gratitude and funk. The funk of ages. I am not going to ruin my love's life today. It's like the time I said yes to gray sneakers, but then the salesman said, wait. And there, out of the back room, like the bakery's first biscuits, bright blue kicks, iridescent, like a scarab. Oh, who am I kidding? It was nothing like a scarab. It was like bright blue fucking sneakers. I did not want to die that day. Oh my God. Why don't we talk about it? How good it feels. And if you don't know, then you're lucky. But also, you poor thing. Bring the band out on the stoop. Let the whole neighborhood hear. Come on, everybody. Say it with me nice and slow. No pills, no cliff, no brains on the floor. Bring the bass back. No rope, no hose. Not today, Satan. Every day I wake up with my good fortune and news of my demise. Don't keep it from me. Why don't we have a name for it? Bring the bass back. Bring the band out on the stoop. Hallelujah. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. I want to say one more thing. I realized that one person I forgot to thank, because I am just a ball of nervousness, is Chandra. And I just want to say, just all of us. So I want to say that. Thank you so much, everybody. I can't wait to talk to Megan.
Oh my God. Gabby, let's have another round of applause. That was a pleasure, and thank you, Blue, for that great introduction. I really appreciate it. Now I'd like to invite one of Megan Hinton's students, Natalie Coletta, to the stage to introduce Megan. Come on up.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello, beautiful people of the world. How wonderful it is to be up here. I actually wanted to take a moment. I think I'm the last student to introduce, so I wanted to thank David and Dustin, everyone, for inviting students to come up to do this. It's really good to be a part of it and to share the stage with those who we consider to be our rock stars for this week, so thank you for that. I've been watching, I don't know Meg until, I didn't meet her until this week, so So this experience is really new for me, and being near her and having witnessed her work from afar it's exciting to be here, basically. I've been watching Megan's work for a number of years, and like all of us who know her imagery, we're compelled by the weight of their presence. They are juicy little showstoppers. The choice of familiar subjects, the presence, the physicality of her three-dimensional grounds, her worked surfaces, and her muted color palette are honed into objects that are defined from her economical sensibility. As you will soon see, she is a mixed media painter with expertise in a developed understanding of angles, curves, and corners. When you come near to them, the surfaces reveal their layers, their substance, and their honesty. Today in our workshop, Megan said, "There's no gossip out here on the Outer Cape." You said that, right? For the most part, she just qualified. Everyone respects one another, is what she said. This is relevant way out here at the furthest reach of the East Coast, here where the last bits of land submerge, where there's no place to hide, where the edges, angles, and rounded corners are part of our shared spaces and the places that are references. Nature, figures, and built structures inform Megan as an artist. The creams and blues, the grays and greens that the light calls up are where her palette oftentimes lands. A figure stands or jits in the surface, activating a space. And the built coastline of homes and piers with their posts, roof pitches, seats, and floorboards are there in the work, pieced together by lines and shapes that are deckled, imprecise, wiped and covered, and then scraped again. In our workshop, Meg mentioned that she's not a salon-style kind of person. She prefers to look at artwork one piece at a time, just she alone in a room, the viewer in relationship to the work. This is relevant when you consider the relatable scale of her work. Like the parts of our bodies, chest, throat, pelvis, rib, there is an instant sense of belonging when you see and approach her work. You need to come up close to know Megan's art to visually hold it. You need to be within arm's reach of Megan's work. Megan Hinton is an object portraitist, a figure painter, a landscape collagist. She calls on art history in her content and technique, enlisting traditional and discarded media, resulting in a developed practice at the intersection of painting, photography, printmaking, sculpture, and installation. Megan holds an MFA in Interdisciplinary Art from Mills College in Oakland, California, where she won the Hung Lui Painting Prize, which ignited a career in cross-disciplinary media, technique, and content interest. Meg has been recognized near and far, including a residency fellowship at 20 Summers here in Provincetown, the Alice C. Cole Merit Grant from Wellesley College, a residency fellowship at the Frans Masereel Centrum in Belgium, and most recently, in 2024, the Provincetown Art Association and Museum honored Megan with the prestigious annual award for artistic excellence. Megan is also a curator and writer, and as we in her workshop this week know firsthand, she is most importantly to us a seasoned and risk-taking art educator. Please welcome Megan Hinton.
Hi, wow, Natalie, thank you so much. Natalie's an art historian, can you tell? and a painter, very thoughtful. Thank you for taking the time and for being a wonderful collaborator in our class. Gabrielle, Wow, thank you. Thank you for making me laugh. Whoops, I need that. Thanks for making me laugh this past week and making me think, and then extending that into your poetry. It's just these past 3 days, I feel like I have a friend in you. Thank you. Which is why, no, which is why I like Falk so much. It just brings me to so many amazing people. I want to thank the staff here for how just being like under or with your administration is a real treat. This place is run like a tight ship, and you are all very sort of generous and intelligent, and I just feel grateful. It's such a wonderful place to teach for so many reasons. And I just want to make a note that Falk is such an important part of Provincetown, the art community, and the history of the art community here. And one reason for that is because every time I come into Falk, whether to teach, I have never taken a class here, which I'm definitely going to do. To teach, to attend a lecture, to go to open studio, I get to dialogue about art, which I often talk about working alone as an artist, and it's so important. I like to talk about art as much as I like to make art. I talk to you about art all day long. So every time I come here, I get to do that, and it feels like a very sophisticated part of this town, and I'm happy to be a part of it with all of you. Okay, here we go. My class is called Painting Lab. And our class is called Painting Lab. And I'm always thinking about the studio as a lab and an experimental place. And I'm a very process-oriented painter, so that means like I work from life mostly, like I get ideas from my immediate surroundings. And then I go down this process with this variety of material, and I take this sort of trip. And through this trip, I find a hypothesis for my work that hopefully ends up in a good place. I have 8 very smart, open, creative Painting Lab students. This is a picture from yesterday, and I asked them at the end of class if we could do a group photo, and instead of just doing like a straight up group photo, I said, make a gesture that resonates just this exercise we did. So I don't know them very well, but actually after today, I actually feel like I know them pretty well. And I think their gestures really describe each of them really well, and like the totality of the gestures describe this class. It's one of the best adult workshops I've ever had, I'm gonna say. And I'm not just saying that, it's one of the best. I'm gonna start a clock soon, like right now. So I just want to talk about the class a little bit before I talk about my work. Today we did this project called Thought, No Thought. And the idea of it is that they actually brought in experimental surfaces. We didn't paint on panel or canvas. I asked them to bring in like sandpaper and toilet paper rolls and whatever is experimental in both 3-dimensional and flat form to open up the idea of what one can paint on. And the idea of Thought, No Thought would be that they would do these experimental paintings, one that was inspired by actual thought or intention, and one by no thought, if that's even a possible thing to do. And no thought is the idea that you would bypass conscious thought to access more intuitive, spontaneous mode of creation or uninhibited expression. And then thought is actually really important too, to explore intentionality in work. These two paired together create a duality of control and spontaneity, improvisation and restraint. That, for me, is what painting's about. So this is a show. I photographed their work and then asked them if I could show it. This is a show of their work. Now, class, if you're here and I get the thought, no thought switch, you can say, no, actually, that was no thought. But, so I just want to go through this real quick. Kara, thought, no thought. Lori, thought, no thought. It's on a book cover, book interior, actually. Jeremy, thought, no thought. Chris, is this thought? That's thought. Okay, good. Thought, no thought. I could argue the opposite on that one, but anyway, whatever. Doesn't matter. Natalie, thought, wearable art. I love the t-shirt. No thought, found material. Karen, thought, a painting on a drawing. No thought. Now this is funny. James, thought, and thought. That was his choice, thought and thought to show. Totally respectable. Getting into the 3-dimension of painting. And finally, Lily, thought, no thought. Is there really a difference here? So it puts these things into question, which I think are really interesting. So this is the kind of stuff we're doing. Thank you for letting me show your work. Okay, so this little analog typed out, what is the best use of my time right now, was found in a cabinet in the house that my partner, Paul Erickson, who's here tonight, and I moved in, 4 years ago or whatever. And I moved that cabinet into my studio. And I actually didn't really understand. I mean, I understand it, but I kept pondering it. And often for me, what is the best use of my time right now is being in studio. And it's a place that I strive to get to on a daily basis. And the interior of the studio has always been a really fascinating space for me. And this is some of my early work where I just did this direct painting, which is just direct painting on canvas with the brush, of these scenes of my studio in this sort of abstract impressionist way. And so documenting it as a space that's very sort of personal and ever-changing has always been kind of important to me. And I'm really interested in all of the idiosyncratic byproduct marks that happen in the studio and how they're kind of ever shifting. And I almost feel like they're unintentional, no thought, where are they thought? Anyway, doesn't matter. Pieces in and of themselves, and sometimes I document them through photography. But Painting Lab, the class, is very much about the studio and what happens in there and what is successful and not. And my studio is in constant flux. It's like a combination of really organized and very messy. I don't know if that makes any sense, but there is this way of how it's organized, and I'm constantly shifting things around to do new projects. And oftentimes there's scraps of drawings lying around and this old slide projector for another project, and books I'm looking at, and notes. And sometimes this material gets exhausted and I throw it away and then bring new material in. But it's ever-changing space. And 3 years ago, when we moved out to Truro, I acquired this old barn. And this is what they call in Truro and probably on other towns in the Cape, a pre-existing non-conforming structure, which means that you could never build this right now. It sits right on that busy road. And it's a gift, the studio. It's a wonderful place. It smells like wood. And it probably was built in the mid-19th century, maybe the 1840s. I really don't know. There's no really historical documentation about it. But it has been used as an artist space. And it had no heat, it had no water. And I didn't change it that much. I got some more windows in and changed the doors, because those green doors, as charming as they are, were kind of decrepit and put on a deck and stuff like that. So it became a year-round working space it's very close to our home that I can just walk to. So with that said, I just want to show you some more pictures. So it's got these old floorboards, and nothing about it is whitewashed, and it's completely wonky and not plumb, and the walls are tweaked, and it's just a really asymmetrical space. And this has really influenced my work, deeply over the past 2 years. And it was actually, when I got the space, I didn't work there for 2 years, and it was already influencing me in the other studio I was working at in Wellfleet. And often this light gets casted in the day. There's this old, big north light window that some artists put in. There was an artist, a sculptor, a woman who worked there named B. Lillian Link, who lived out in Truro with her female partner in the 30s. And then a painter, the painter I acquired it from was a man named Sal Fiumara. He's still alive, but he moved up to the North Shore to be closer to his family. And he was very happy that another painter was moving into the space. And, you know, it has these big old floorboards. And anyway, the light's cast in these different ways. And there's like old oil stains on the floor from probably a car being in there at some point, and someone else's paint stains. And I look at these casts of light. I always think about who was there before, who saw this exact cast of light at this very time of day. So the barn holds a lot of history, and history is really important to me. I studied art, visual art, kind of like mostly all the way through my studies, but I also studied art history, and I studied history as well, mostly ancient European history. And so this kind of history is very relevant to me, and like I said, has influenced me. Here's the walls. I love hanging my paintings on these walls. There's this is actually the ceiling of the painting studio, and there's this illegible text, and I think on the right it says 1840 something. And someone came in once and said these big beams probably came from old ships, and this barn was probably built with old ships. Just another theory about the space, not proven. The walls have holes in them, and they're made of wood. Like I said, there's trap doors on the floor down to the basement and up to the loft. And then so I've been painting in here, and I'm still trying to figure out how to work in here. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's really a new space in the grand scheme of things. And consequently, my painting has changed a lot in here. And like about 5 years ago, I started working with collage. And my process, my work is not always resolved. I'm sure some of you are very familiar with that idea. But I don't show everything I make, and a lot of work really gets discarded, and I prefer to do like very minimally hung shows. And so there's a lot of discard, and I used to take those paintings and paint on top of them and make new paintings, which was kind of a struggle. But I just started cutting up old canvases from the past 30 years and using those as a new kind of dimensional palette. And when you cut canvas from old paintings, the way the color and the shape comes together creates this new formation. And these discards become these new marks, a regenerated palette that exists as a 3D surface. And there's like a cutting out that rejects, and I think that's an important thing, expected notions of painting to regenerate into a patchwork of textured layered surface. This is a close-up of one of the, like very close-up, close scrutiny of how collage painted over kind of develops the three-dimensionality of surface. This is a recent painting. It took me 4 years to make this painting. More and more, I'm getting comfortable with just being with the fact that I don't necessarily want to make a quick painting. And if a painting's going to take time, which means putting it away for a while and looking at it, as I age, I get more comfortable with being uncomfortable with it not being finished, because I actually know that there's going to be a resolve at some point, and there also might not be a resolve, and I'm just going to let it go. So this piece, Can I Find You in the Darkness? There's these years, and as it continues, just like all of this like global grieving I feel like I was doing, and personal grief that was coming about in my own life, brought about this oil collage that transformed in different ways. And you can't really see the surface, but I was cutting into this. That's like a ruin with a bird, which is actually a bird that was appropriated from a Milton Avery painting. And the columns or the pathways through the ruin where the blue light's coming through are actually cut into the surface, and then I would work the back of the painting with material. So this idea of like working the back side of something became almost more sculptural. But even though it was kind of a dark painting, I think it's a painting of hope. And then when Paul and I were doing these renovations, all of this wood, like from the 18th century, was coming out of the house, and we were restoring, but there were scraps, and we didn't have a heart to throw it in the dumpster because it was so beautiful. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to start using this in my work. And I have been interested for a while in like this Marcel Duchampian, if you want to throw a fancy art term on it, notion of the ready-made, but turning that into this idea of a ready mark, found marks. And so this surface has a paint layer on it that was dealt with or manipulated or applied by someone else and worn over the years. So it has this kind of history texture, and it's actually a quite challenging surface to paint on. The more texture that's on the surface, I think things become a little bit more difficult, but that's the challenge I like. And this is actually a really small painting, and it's called Northlight. It's actually a painting of the window at the Hawthorne Barn. And what I found in this type of painting for the first time in my work, instead of like laboring painting and doing multiple layers over a long period of time, the ready mark of the material, the worn paint, was a way to suggest this type of history, and it was a way to maintain itself, backing off on the amount of painting to feature the ready mark and make an image. And that was kind of a very delicate space to be in, of not over-painting. So I think doing those on a small scale was really effective for me. And then I start to notice that these edges are really, they're like blemished and worn and not exactly straight. And then I start thinking about, does a painting have to be a picture? And why do humans frame everything in pictures? Like in like this framing, we're framing all the time. And I have all these theories about that, which I'm not gonna get into right now. Historically, and like how people look at things, like there's a way that frames and restraints of pictures, canvas are important, but I wanted to be in question of that. And I started this series of work where I was appropriating the work from other painters. Like this is actually, there's a known Provincetown painter named Herman Merrill, and he worked out here in the mid 20th century. And there's this great painting he did. I think they have it at Pam. I'm not sure. I think so, because that's where I've seen it. It's got to be there. Of this chair in a room. So I started plucking out these images from other artists' work. I got kind of tired of making up images. So I started looking at other people's images to work from. And by sort of plucking them out, I was kind of making them my own. And it was simultaneously homage to my parents who had passed and things they were into and not into. And what happened here is these what I call shape paintings. They're out of the frame of the frame restraint, and by plucking out the image to reappropriate a sculptural method of painting, it's flat like painting. They're really thin like plywood, but they're dimensional on the edge. Here's another one. This is plucked from a David Hockney painting, which is kind of boxy, but it still doesn't maintain itself in a rectilinear format. And then I start thinking about how I could bring this idea with collage and the found wood into a type of scene painting that was relevant to out here, and like pushing how landscape painting is out here. It's so important, and I love landscape painting, and particularly like French, late 19th century French painters and early 20th century French painters. But I just love looking at landscape painting, and I've always been a landscape painter, but I'm looking to like push it somewhere else, to take it away from being predictable. And I don't even know if that's the right word, just something else. So these pieces, this is called Knath Moors, and it's a reference to a painting that Carl Knath, another Provincetown painter that I really liked, who's out here in the early 20th century, mid 20th century. He's a very shapely, cubist kind of painter. And he did this painting called Moors. And by taking this wood and not making it square, and the surface is actually more than one dimension, you can't really see it, I was able to kind of record his work. And I think for me, at the time I was doing this like taxonomy of Provincetown painters because I really wanted to learn about them. But the best way for me to learn about them was to kind of like redo their work in another way instead of just reading about them. So with that, I started thinking about other types of ready marks. And last year I started collecting found paintings of what I think is mediocre appearance. I'm just gonna say. Because I'm very critical about painting. I just am. But I have a sensibility that I'm imposing on you all. Just remember that. So this, and these paintings are very 70s, they're very of an era, so they don't hold like a timelessness necessarily. Maybe they do to you. And they have these, kind of cheap wooden frames, and maybe they were done by amateurs, maybe not, I don't know, but they're all signed. And I found them in the back of a pretty dingy antique store outside of Braintree. And they were just in a pile behind a partition in a pile, and nobody's looking at them. So I was thinking about this idea of how does art survive beyond us who make it, writers, artists. And I think it's probably something that one reason why we make art, because we want legacy. At least for me, I'll just speak for myself. But who's to say that it will ever exist beyond our lives? But it really might have a better chance than us being remembered. So by taking these paintings with intention to use them as ready marks and probably just paint over them and break them off their canvases and reconstruct them into collage or assemblage, I was asking myself this question: am I resurrecting them, or am I rejecting this painting and trying to use the space of the found ready mark to make new work? So these questions came up about why I was doing this. Really, it was an experiment about what we paint and how we push the limits, how I could push the limits of painting. This is a 6-inch tondo. Tondo means round in painting format. And it's like a E. Hager Heindel painted this. You can see the signature. And it's kind of like an Americana folksy painting, which I got off eBay. And I think it was like $10. And I was interested in this because we live on a farm. My partner, Bo, is a farmer. And this to me was very sort of sweet, but a little bit too sweet. And it's called At the Pump. And we have chicken. So I turned this into a little painting called Lady of the Pump. And it's kind of cute, yeah. And I just used an old monotype and for the collage element and some oil paint to resurrect this tondo. And also this idea of like using the found painting, letting some of it be. I started working on these, and I wasn't completely satisfied because I felt like I was still in the restraint of the frame. Although it was kind of thrilling to just paint right on the frame, but a lot of times the frame didn't accept the paint in a very nice way or whatever. And so I did this one, which I liked, which is an oil collage called L'escalier perdu, which means lost staircase, because we actually eliminated a very old staircase in our house, and it was really devastating. I guess we had to do it. We didn't have to do it, but we did it for a very good reason. So I did this painting, and it's on a found Giclée photograph of a shell. And it was in a floater frame. You see the gap there of the floater frame? And so I used that to just paint over and make this kind of abstract compositional push within the staircase. So that was kind of, but again, I felt like I was too much in the frame of that. That's just a detail of it in process. And some of that color is actually the Giclée print. So I covered most of the original piece up. And then I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to just paint on paintings. I wanted to build stuff. and paint. And so I traveled quite a bit this year in France, and typically when I travel, I take like a little notebook, and I take a little watercolor pad, and I just do these watercolors and draw in a notebook, whatever. And I was looking at a lot of art, and I just realized I could use a bunch of material and make these sort of shape paintings and shape collages of looking at things. This is just like a rooftop view. And I was going to flea markets, and this isn't really resolved, but I think it's important. I was going to flea markets and, you know, finding drawings from 1967 by French drawers, just in like folders, like tons of these drawings, just completely covered up. And they were really cheap, and they were willing, the merchants were willing to sell them. And I start thinking about a way that with my hand in this and someone else's hand, it became less about my ego as a painter, and there was another hand in the work, and there was a silent collaboration or legacy collaboration going on. So we two could speak to each other without ever meeting or possibly ever living in the same time and space. So it's kind of a new thing, and it feels very profound, and it probably is going to continue in some way. And then when I come back to the studio, I'm just like trying to like push things around and work out things in this process. And I'm moving through, and I'm almost finished. And I'm interested in this idea of the facture of painting. And facture in painting means a manner in which a painting is made. It's a combination of brush strokes, marks, and material. It's the work of painting. I'm really into the work of painting. And the work of painting is critical to its success. Obviously, we have to work to make paintings, but what kind of work is that? And then this brings up questions about what's revealed in the piece's foundation, its notion of touch, its sensuality, and the understanding of material that gives art objects their essential character. And because I'm so into this work, I use it to push my limits in painting, and ultimately eventually I reach some kind of resolution. But it's interesting, like, even if within a resolution, a finished piece, I still always see something I could change. So I'm just gonna finalize by showing you my very current work. And it's these assemblage paintings with all this found material I've mentioned. It stays as it was left. It's about leaving rooms that are very important to you in your life that you never come back to again. And I never have done this, but I'm going to show you my very fumbly, not very good photographs of my process and unresolved imagery, but it stays as it was left. Here's just some process shots, how things kind of began. And I use this one nice thing about digital technology. I use an iPad with a palette that has this capacity, unlike paint, to immediately go into a high-level variation of opacity and transparency. And instead of a painting taking 3 years now, it might only take a year with this tool. But I use the digital pad to like make decisions about color and make decisions about cutting, because I'm using power tools. And when you cut something, you've cut it. You can't get it back. And when you paint something next to something else, you can't really fully wipe it off. I mean, you probably could. We could talk about that too. But it's there. So this iPad is a way for me to do kind of these digital sketches on tactile material to work some things out. And now I'm really using it a lot. And it's created an efficiency decision to my work, which is good, especially when I'm making a body of work. And these are just the shifts of this particular piece and how many stages of kind of frustration and triumph and knowing, not knowing it goes through, and trying out different materials until there's some kind of harmonious outcome. And then the last thing I just want to say is I have a show coming up in August and at Farm Project Space, which is this really great gallery in Wellfleet that is showing a lot of contemporary artists, a lot of serious artists who are making kind of some experimental work. And this show's called Back to Mine. And back to mind's an idiom. It's actually mostly used in British English. It suggests an invitation to one's home. And I thought that was a nice invitation to the viewer to visit these genre scenes that I'm making assemblages of. And it also, back to mind, refers to my return to original subject matter of my own after doing appropriation for the past 5 years. So these are just some pieces from Back to Mind. And this is Farm Projects, this gallery. This is a show I had in 2020. And I just have to mention it. And if you haven't been there, you should go, because there's all kinds of cool stuff there. But it's an invaluable experience for me, this gallery. Susie Nielsen, who runs it, I do a lot of different types of work, and she's very supportive of all these different moves I make and things I want to do, and with other artists. And I feel so grateful for the space in this community. And it's also a space that connects us, and where I've met a lot of people and artists, and another space like VOC for conversation and dialogue. So just going to run through these recent images. Tillage. And you can get a sense of the dimension of the wall sculpture. Uneven Tide. That actually uses the picture frames that came off of the paintings I was painting on. Growing Faith. Sister Barn. This one's kind of in process, not quite finished, but it's getting there. Again, the frame comes in. Deep Hold. Thinking about the history of bathtub scenes in painting. Homesteady. And that's the last one I have. And I also have a book back there. And I'll mention my book called Mention, which was designed by Susie Nielsen and published by Farm Projects. And it's a picture book. And it's just about, it's pictures of my work and things I look at. And I think it's about my specific lens, but I think as visual artists and people who are writers who are connected to the visual world, it might be kind of a global understanding of how we look. And so check that out. And thank you for listening to me. I love my work and I love talking about it. And so thank you for giving me the time to share it. Thanks.
Megan Hinton, please, some more applause for Meg. Wonderful talk. Such an interesting talk. Thank you so much. And also, Natalie, thank you for your wonderful introduction. It was lovely. And we do have copies of Megan's book at the back that are for sale, and Megan will be happy to sign them after the event. Thank you. And okay, now we're going to do a joint Q&A. So if we can get Megan and Gabrielle back on stage, we can get a little conversation going. Come on up.
That was phenomenal.
Thanks.
I learned so much from you.
I learned so much from you.
I mean, this is like
Can we have coffee tomorrow morning?
Yeah, I'm busy from 9 to 12.
Okay, all right. Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
Me too.
How about
That's perfect.
we both are.
After?
Yeah.
Okay.
I drink tea.
Okay, we can have tea. I should drink tea.
I'll teach you.
Okay. Paula would like that.
But it was like Henry David, Thoreau's,
Thoreau, what?
Blue was saying to me, Blue leaned back and said, that's like a cento. We've been working on centos today. I told you.
You mentioned this.
Yeah, this really remarkable form where you're taking, it's interesting the word appropriating that you use, appropriating or taking or culling or collaborating with lines from other poems, or you could do other text and making from those lines another poem that feels like yours. And Blue's absolutely right. Just the layering, and I love that.
Oh, I love looking at art. So it's, I mean, I'm sure you love reading poetry. And I think a looking practice is like so essential to a making practice. So I can't help myself from, I mean, the nice thing about us visual artists is we can like legit steal, and you guys have like copyright stuff or something, don't you? Isn't that a thing?
That is a thing.
We're just gonna talk this talk. Like, we'll answer your questions later.
But I also I do want to say one of my least favorite phrases in the world that poets use is poets steal.
Oh.
I think that there's this because I'm really interested in this. That work does not feel extractive to me. And I think that there's something about, I mean, this is just my opinion, and I'm wrong 95 times a minute, but for me, when we say poets steal, it means we go to poems just like we go to the gas station, or we go to land, and we look at it and we think, what do I need from it to feed myself? And we pull out of it, you know? There's just this kind of, and that seems less collaborative to me than saying how can I collaborate with this text? What if I don't steal from it? What if I ask its permission to you know? And one of the things that I love is how you talked about those pieces that weren't as strong, but also that you were learning things from them still.
You mean the process pieces?
Yeah, or no, the things, the pieces you were getting from eBay and all this other stuff.
Oh
where
yeah,
you're
I'm being kind of snobby about that.
well, but not really, because I felt like you were being kind of loving in terms of I'm being hard on it, but also there's something here that I can work with.
Yeah.
I can learn from it.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. I learned from their marks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I learned from their marks.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the first song in the No Sharks in the Kettle Ponds
Yes, that's
LP. Sorry, people have questions.
We're gonna work that one
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
So I am enjoying both of your explanations about what you could call appropriation or you could call learning from others. And I do wonder what you might have to say about the reason people are so judgy about that, which seems to me to be a bit of a cult of originality. That somehow artists have to be unique and original, and poets have to be unique and original every minute. And it just seems like maybe neither of you really believe in that. And I'd love to hear more, if that's the case.
Can I?
Yeah. Please. Please.
This is so interesting because I think this is about how things have been structured in the patriarchy, actually. I'm just going to go there.
Tonight's the night for it.
That original mastery. I've said it before. People have probably heard me say it before, is to completely eliminate mastery out of this whole discourse, and that it's a collective of people working together. And that means that we're influencing and supporting each other. And, no matter what, if our class stayed in that room for the next 2 weeks together, a lot of you would start working like each other. Mm-hmm. It would happen. So I think there's a possession around that of originality that, I think it's important. I don't think things should be necessarily copied, but borrowed is, I think, part of a different kind of thought around who owns this and who doesn't own it, that seems important right now. I don't know if I'm articulating that very well, but can you?
Yeah, I love that. I think, because what I think is the minute we give ourselves permission to steal, whether it's poems or land or any of that, the power dynamic that comes into that is, this thing is just a resource for me. That's different than saying I'm gonna read Wild Geese, which is a poem that so many people love and has been extracted from in lots of ways. And also a lot of people I'm gonna write my Wild Geese poem. And then they're why doesn't my poem feel like that? Like, really, like, hold on. Like, but also, like, I too have a wild and like, what? Like, what? But it's because, like, what that to me is the poet's, like, and it can come from a thing of, like, loving Mary Oliver, but it does this thing where instead of, like, sitting with Mary Oliver and realizing the way she gets to those last lines is because we start by being told you do not have to be good, and that might end up on a coffee cup, but that you do not have to be good. After that comes, you do not have to crawl on your knees, like, through right. She's gonna get us there. And so if I just go to, like, I'm like, oh, I like the sound of that, I'm gonna take it, then I'm just gonna take the surface. But I'm not gonna, like, learn, like, what Mary Oliver did. Such a badass, Mary Oliver. Such mastery. So I think there's also this thing about what is it to really, really, like, learn from someone, acknowledge the learning, and then, like, do I sound like Lucy Brock-Broido? Probably, in lots of ways. Did I realize at some point, because my whole generation of people who'd studied with Lucy's were trying to sound just like her and just sounded like the worst kind of, like, costume ball of Lucy? I understood, like, I can never do, like, what she does exactly, but I can learn from it. I can always have, like, the ring of her sort of ghost inside me. I think that that's really, really essential and important work. And I think your question is really important. Like, like, what is the real?
Right.
You know, that's a great question.
Hi there.
Hi, Amy.
How are you?
Hi,
Can you hear me?
Amy.
Hi. So, Megan, hi, Megan. Could you talk more about thinking, not thinking as part of your process? And then, Gabby, could you possibly apply that to making poetry?
I'm thinking and not thinking right now.
Well, when I think of not thinking, I think about meditation, first of all. And sometimes when I'm working, I actually don't, I feel like I'm in a state of meditation, and particularly because I wonder how writers feel about this, because you're using words, and I wonder if there's something closer. But if I'm just using, like, material forms, there's a way that I can access some state of being, and that's that process trip I was talking about. And it is like nothing else. It's so rich. It's not like anything of my life of business or personal. It exists outside of any other thing I know. And I think it just kind of happens and then stops, and then there's some thinking that comes in. It comes and goes. But I was saying in class today, I don't think that one can completely stop thinking. When we were doing the no thought paintings, we were like, ha ha ha, like, I'm actually thinking about this or whatever. Of course, I mean, there's thoughts, like, you're choosing this and you're choosing this palette and everything, but it's more about the practice of not thinking to make a total, it's rooted in automatism, the surrealist movement of, like, channeling the subconscious and making kind of unthoughtful marks that ultimately become thoughtful because they come from the human hand, and they generate feeling. But it's more about the thought, no thought combo that I think is important in the practice. So the thought leads to the thought, vice versa. It's an abstract concept, Amy. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Yeah, but it's a good question. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I love that answer. My therapist, Joe, who's also a mindfulness teacher, we had a great session in Barn 2 on Zoom the other day. And I have meditated for a long time, and so it was great finding a therapist who's also, like, a meditation teacher. And one of the phrases that he said to me a while ago comes from a Buddhist tradition. A translation of it is, not striving, not halting, I cross the flood. that seems to me very much, like for me, that's thinking, not thinking, right? Not striving, not halting, I cross the flood. I'm always thinking, all these things are always happening. I'm also just like, when I'm in a kind of, I think my most well-realized state, whether or not good poems come out of that, I don't know, but when I'm in my most fruitful periods, I'm just kind of moving, I'm just moving forward, and I'm not striving, which for me would mean, is anyone gonna read this? Am I gonna get a Guggenheim? Like, what's gonna happen? Will I get asked back to Falk? What's, like all these things, right? Which really can, like, as you're writing, you're thinking about it, right? Like, it's like,
thinking about your audience when you're working,
what's gonna happen, or is this like my other work? Like, maybe this isn't good. Is it good? Is it not good? Blah, 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 blah. Not striving, not halting, just keep moving through, keep going. I cross the flood, which is also this acknowledgement that, like, I'm not gonna stop that river. Like, I'm not gonna stop it. So for me, thought, no thought is so much, it's such a beautiful idea. And it's so much, that's so much how I think about it now. I also, in 2004, I was just on the phone with my pal Dana Levin, amazing poet. If you don't know the poems of Dana Levin, let me tell you, go get them. But we were talking about Dana's second Saturn return, and I was saying mine was when I had like a really good old-fashioned nervous breakdown. And it was when I started doing John Kabat-Zinn mindfulness. I don't know if other people have done the stress reduction mindfulness class. And one of the things that made me so angry at my teacher in the beginning, as I was like really losing my mind, and I had this Buddhist teacher who was also leading class, and he would say, how you are feeling right now is how you are feeling right now. And I'd be like, fuck you. Like, But I really but that's like thinking, not thinking. Like, at some point, I did begin to realize, right, how I am feeling right now is how I am feeling right now. Not striving, not halting. I cross the flood, come to the page, like, what's gonna happen? Let's just move through. So for me, it's like that. I also more and more try to do that as I'm reading. Can judgment come in the second or third reading? Can I just kind of flow with what it seems like the person is trying to do? That's been very helpful to me in terms of what I might think of as the most avant-garde poetics, but also someone like Wordsworth. Like, I'm like, okay, the prelude, oh, okay, I'm in it, Yeah.
I think a really good example of this does not have nothing to do with art making, of not thinking, but you could apply it, is like, when you're driving in a car at 65 miles per hour, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I've just zoned out, and I'm driving this 8-ton metal machine, and am I here? And I'm still driving. Like, there's something about that kind of state that I think there's thinking still going on, but it's like a zone out of total control.
First, this is great.
Thank you.
As I listen to the two of you talk, the question that comes to me, and I think a lot of the people who are some sort of creators in the room, is what do you do? Do you have a process to turn off your judging brain? In the act of creating, I'm listening to you, and you're talking about how you're judging as you create, and I think we all fall into that hole. Is there something that you do specifically to turn off your judging self in the act of creation?
Like judging our work?
As you create, I'm a mediocre painter, not painter, really drawer, and a decent writer. And all the time, I have to tell myself, I'll make a mark and look and go, ooh, that's a good line. And it's like, stop doing that. I'm wondering, for people as accomplished as you, I mean, we look at your work and it's kind of like, good luck approaching that. Do you have a process to turn off your judging self in the act of creation?
Do you want to try this first?
Yeah. I love that question. I'll say a couple things. I read that poem about the pilgrim, right? That's really a real part of me. Like, I'm from that, you know? And like, when we think about so much of the damage and the horror in this country, like, and the world, I can feel my lineage, which is really built on self-loathing, fear, humiliation, and inflicting power over others, and building fences, building walls, restricting people's right. I say that by way of saying I was taught really well in that practice, and so one thing that I'm aware of when I'm writing is that voice is always there. What are you doing? Why are you writing? Like, who are you? Like, I can take myself to my own town square and like humiliate myself, like, and I really mean it. And it's like funny, but it's also like, it's terrible. Like, it's history coming through me. One thing I can do is I can be gentle with myself, because one thing that the lineage I came from never taught me how to do was be gentle with myself. Like, that was like, and so I can be gentle, and I can really like also recognize it. Gabby, you're being so hard on yourself right now. Like, it's a piece of language. I'm a big one for talking aloud to myself and moving my lips in all kinds of places. So COVID was great for that with the masks. So many terrible things, but I could talk to myself all day long out in the streets. But I really mean it. Like, I actually think there is a practice of when you feel that being, like that part of you, actually just like saying to yourself, like, you're doing okay. I mean, I really mean it. And saying like, or sometimes I say to that voice, I really do have that voice that will say like, why are you doing this? I will go sometimes years without writing, and sometimes it's fruitful, and sometimes it's because that voice has really come in. Who are you to use your voice? I also have learned how to like be my most loving adult self and just say, go away. It might sound silly, but like there are those days when like I'm just in it and I hear that voice and I just say, hey, go away. I think that that's talking to yourself out loud is actually a great thing to do in that moment. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but not like in your head, but actually out loud. Yeah.
I think I have a harder time with judging in my personal life with people, and people just like it comes up more with relationships, and for me, and just like I'm just gonna answer this in a tactile way with materials. It's not really like judgment. It could be, if it was perceived as judgment, judgment is happening all the time because I'm constantly making decisions, but it's more like evaluation. You know, if I'm standing over a piece and putting a square of canvas on a piece of wood, and I'm looking at it, and I could be doing that for like 20 minutes. Does it go an inch this way? Does it go up? It's like, it's constant, like, does that work? No, that doesn't. Like, it's not, for me, it's like with making, it's more like evaluation. And I think like I'm at this stage because I'm this age now, and like I realize that my time is kind of limited, and you never know what's going to happen, that I don't want to be in I don't want to associate this to myself. It has something else to do with something channeling or something coming through that I just want to follow. Like I said, I want to follow something, follow a line, follow a shape. And when it looks good, I think it's time to move on to something else, and then it looked good that day, and then the next day I'm like, that doesn't look so good, so there's maybe another judgment. But if it's, for me, with art making, if it's categorized as judgment, I think it's problematic. Now, judgment, I think, is something I really work on in my life outside of art making, and being curious and not being so hard on myself. I've been learning to be curious rather than judgmental. You know, that's really important. Makes one a kinder person. Yeah. And then one can come to their work in a better way. Yeah.
And I love the idea also of like, can we just like talk forever? the lights will go down. Like, I also realized that a word like I've been thinking about a lot lately is like discernment as opposed to judgment, right? So I think judgment, why did you do that? That sucks. Like, why would you keep going? That kind of judgment is not helpful. Discernment is sort of lovely, right? Like, discernment does come from a kind of mastery and like learning things. And one thing I love to do you like cook, or do you like, what kind of things do you love to do? What do you love to do in the world? Yeah. Okay, so those things that you love to do out loud, like when you're in the middle of them, and you're just like loving it, you know what's like good and like what you're enjoying a little bit less, right? That's discernment, right? That's like, and I bet if you take like that, like discernment, like I really do try and do that. I'm like, I love to cook. And when I'm cooking, like sometimes it's not so great, sometimes it's good. Sometimes I taste it and I'm like, oh, that's not too much salt. Like, oh my gosh, right? That, if I can take that kind of pleasure into my writing practice, like whatever that thing you are doing, if the judge leaves and that part of you comes in and is like, I don't know, like I like it a little better this way, like then, you know what I mean? Discernment. Yeah.
Discernment.
Discernment.
One more question.
So I had a quick question, just a technical question about how you use the digital tools, and how does that actually transfer into your practice? Because it's invisible to me how that operates.
Invisible, like, what do you mean by invisible?
Like you're showing.
Oh, you don't understand how I'm using it?
Yeah, I don't understand how you're using it.
Maybe I didn't explain it well. I don't totally understand how I'm using it all the time either, but I mean, I'm not like a tech person. Like, I don't do design work, and I'm kind of like a mid-Gen Xer who kind of like has some faculty over technology, but not that much. And but it's an iPad, and it has this painting program, and it has a grid of colors to select and different brush sizes and different opacities and transparencies, which is immediately accessible in multiplicity instead of how one would make that with putting a medium, a watery solvent or water into paint to make it transparent, or not to make it more opaque. And why I'm doing it, it's like all I do is I take a photo of the piece with the iPad, and I use the program to draw digitally on top of the assemblage in process to block out, like, let's say this was a shape I was working on. I take a picture of that shape, and then I would block, I want to cut it like this, but I don't want to manually do it with my jigsaw because I'm going to lose the material. So I would block that out with white to feature that shape, to see what it looks like on that digital platform, to then make a decision about a cut I want to make or a color I want to put down, which is a little, and then I'm on this thing, and then I'm like, damn, I'm on this freaking screen in my studio. So I kind of go back and forth with like abandoning the tactile to resolve something digitally, but it's a really useful tool. And it's only recently that I started using it. And I actually said to myself when I started doing this assemblage work, I have to get an iPad to do this, because I could find ways to see what cuts look like by like placing paper over it or things like that, but this is just very efficient. Does that make sense? Better? I can explain it to you more. I'd be happy to, or we can do it together if you'd like to learn it. I can bring my iPad in tomorrow. Do you have an iPad? No. Well, you have a phone. You can do it on a phone too. Yeah, I told them to lose their phones this week. I invited them to lose their phones this week. I didn't tell them. Yeah. Do you use any digital technology? I know we're wrapping it up.
I wish I could say yes, but all digital technology seems to hate me.
See?
Like I
Another-
use it. But I have a visual disability, and I have a very hard time with my eyes, and some days I just can't write. And so I use just like a pad, like a Surface or like an iPad where I can extend the font size. Although I will say sometimes on the screen, it does help me imagine the field. I like using big drawing pads, and then I do like moving stuff around on the screen can be. I am gonna get, for the first time in a really, really long time since I was quite young, I'm gonna get just a big desktop, so I have a huge monitor to work with.
Oh yeah, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
I think will be interesting. Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
Cool.
Big hand for Gabby Calvocoressi and Megan Hinton.